Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle D'Souza, Assistant Professor of CS Department. Today, I am going to teach you the recursive function. Previous version, you have studied the recursive functions, how to write the functions, etc. everything. So, in your recursive function, what is recursive function? A recursive function is nothing but a function which is going to call itself. So, what is happening here? So, it is a function which is going to call itself till where? So, it has to end somewhere. So, to end it, you have to call until it is not required to call itself. So, that is what your recursive function will do. So, you want where the further call of a recursive function should not be done. So, I am going to use a two major cases. So, first case will be your base case and the second one will be a recursive case. So, what is base case? It is nothing but the smallest part where you cannot call further. So, it is a simple enough to solve without further call of a function itself. So, next will be a recursive case. So, this is the second major case. What will be the second major case? In this, three parts will be done. So, the first part is you are going to divide your problem into smaller subparts. Then after that, after division of subparts, what you are going to do is you have to call the function itself to solve it. So, you are going to call the function to solve by itself. Then at last, you have to combine all the solution at once so that I will get the result of that particular function. So, this is what your recursive function is going to do. So, what will happen in your recursive function? So, we will take one example and teach you how it is going to work. So, first example we are going to see is your factorial. So, what is how to write a factorial? So, you know, for example, if I take 5 factorial, it is nothing but you are going to say 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Yes. So, this is the 5 factorial where I am going to get. So, it is nothing but is equal to 120 result. Yes. So, what I have to do now? By seeing this example, I have to say the two major case how to identify. So, the first case is base case. So, how to identify my base case? I can see here 1 is the end of the position. So, it is a base case where you have to the smallest unit what I am going to see. So, what happens here? So, I have to write whenever I get a 1, it has to return the value 1. If I return 0, it is useless to do the multiplication. 0 into anything will be 0. So, what is the base case I have to do? So, it will end at 1. So, what will happen here? 1 is nothing but it is a return of 1 I have to do. This will be my base case. And I can also say that the base case is nothing but a termination case where the further call of it will not be done. So, how to do this? Next, the base case I have already identified. Next is what? Your recursive case. So, I have to repeat and repeat my problem till I get my termination case. So, to do this, we know the normal how to calculate a factorial. That is nothing but you are going to use a fact into I. So, that is nothing but a whatever the result is there, you are going on multiplying. So, if I write it this in a for loop, what will happen? If I is equal to 1, 1 into 1. So, 1 into 2, 1 into 3. So, this is how we were doing in a normal case. Now, I have to convert this into a recursive case. How to do it in a recursive case? So, I have to change this in the form of your recursive base. So, how to do it in a recursive base part? Whatever I am using here as I can write it as n. So, I am going to use means I will be sending the number of which factorial I have to calculate. So that number I am going to take it as a n. So next what I have to do? Next I have to multiply that with a 4, right? So when I said 5 factorial, I am starting with 5, then 4, 3, 2 and 1. So what I have to do, the next part I will get it is by using n minus 1. So this, if 5 is equal to n, then how to get a 4? I have to use n minus 1. So what I am going to do, I have to calculate the n minus 1. So this will be n minus 1. So now what is the first? I have dividing my problem into a subparts. Okay. Now next I have to call the function itself. So what I have to do? I have to call my function itself. So whatever I am going to use as a function here, I have to use that thing that I have used a fact function. So I am going to call that function fact of n minus 1. So this is my recursive case. So this is how I am going to divide my problem based on these two major cases. So the first one will be your base case, where you are going to see which is the smallest enough so that I will not further call my problem. So that is nothing but this is one is your termination case where I have to end it. So I am going, whenever I get a 1, I have to return 1. Next what I have to do, I have to take a second case. So that is your recursive case. So in this I have to divide my problem into subparts, right? So what I am going to do, so I am going to take only this. So first half. What I am going to do, I am going to multiply a n into an n minus 1. That is the next number which I will get. So to do this, I have to, so second is you have to call your function by itself, right? So I am using a function called fact, where I will call a function fact of n minus 1. So we will see this how to iterative so that you will understand the concept of recursive function. So I am going to take, so this will be your base case and this will be your recursive case, right? So I will write a program and I am going to write a function for this first. So you know that how to write a function. So I will be having a return type. Whether my function is going to return anything? Yes, the result of it has to be written, and this result is integer. So what I am going to do is I will use it as int as my return type. Next I am going to use a function. So I am going to give a name called as fact for that particular function. So I will use as fact. Next what I have to do, whether my function is taking a parameter? Yes, it is going to take a parameter. So what I have to do, I have to send a parameter, and this parameter is nothing but my number. What I am going to send it through the main function. So this will become your declaration of your function. So first, whatever you are using your function, what I have to do, I have to declare. Next I have to give a definition to it, then I have to call it. So this is the function declaration what I am going to do it. Next what I have to do now, I have to give a definition to my function, right? So how to give a definition? So I will be having a header of it. So it will be exactly the same as your declaration part. So it will be int fact and a parameter will be sent int number. Next I have to write. So this will be your function header. Next I have to write a body of a function, right? So how to write a body of a function? Here I said I will be having a two cases, right? So what is that? Base case and my recursive case. So first I will write it as a base case. How to write it? It is nothing but if. So I have taken here as num as a parameter. So if my number is equal to 1, okay, so that itself what I am saying. If my number is equal to 1, then what I have to do? I have to return 1. So I am going to return as 1. Next, what I have to do? Next is my base case. Base case is over. Next is recursive case. So what I am going to do in a recursive case? If it is not 1, I have to use an else. So I have to make a decision whether it is 1, that is the smallest part, or I have to call my function itself. So what I am going to do? Calling a function, I am going to do it in an else part. So what will happen in your else? Here I am going to return, that is n into fact of, sorry, not n, it is I am using here as num. So it is num into fact of num minus 1. So I am going to return this problem. So this is how you are going to use a recursive function. This function, I finished giving an header to it, right? That is declaration part. Next, I finish giving a definition to that particular function. Next is what? I have to call that function. Where do I call this function? I am going to call this function in a main part. So how to call? So I'll use void main. Okay, so I don't require my main function to return, so I am using a void. Next, what I have to do? I have to read a number. So I am going to use a int num as a variable. Next, I'll use a printf statement where I'll say enter the number. So I am going to enter one particular number for which I have to calculate a factorial. Next, I have to read it from the keyboard, right? So I am going to use a scanf function, and for integer it is a %d, that is a format specifier we are going to use for integer. Next, what I have to do? I have to use %num. So it is nothing but I am going to store that in the address of num. Next, what I have to do now? Finish reading my number from the keyboard. Next is I have to call this function. So I want my result to be stored somewhere. Why? Because I am returning something here. So I have used a return twice here. So once I am going to return as 1, and once I am going to return the solution of it. So what I have to do? I am going to return an integer type. So I'll use one variable called result to store it. So when I'm going to use this, I have to declare it. So it has to be declared in your main function. So I'm going to store it in a res, that is result. Then next what I'm going to do? I'm going to call the function called fact, and I'm going to send my parameter. So what is the parameter I have to send? It is nothing but the number which I have read from the keyboard. So I am going to send a num here. Next what? I have to print the result. So I'll print the result here. So printf, what I am going to do? So it is a factorial of a number %d is equal to %d. So this format specifier, I am going to use it for number to display. Next, this format specifier to display my result. So this is how I am going to use my program. So what I have done? I have given a declaration, I have given a definition to my function. Next, I have to call my function. I am going to call this function in a main function. So this is how we are going to write a program for the recursive function. Now we'll trace this program. So how to trace it? So we'll start from here. Because your program starts from the main. Your compiler start to understand once the main function is being given. So it is indication for a compiler to tell that it is a beginning of a program. So what will happen? Here I have to read a number. think that the previous example we have taken 5. So we'll use that same example here. So I'm going to read a 5 as here. So next what I'm going to do, I'm going to call a function. So what will happen? I'm going to call a fact and I'm sending a value of 5. So once I'm going to call this function, the execution jumps to a function part. So next it is going to come here for this. So how to trace this? So you know how this has been done, right? So next we have to see how to trace it. So I'll take that example here. Next is to print the result. So we'll see the function part. So your execution has jumped here. It is 5. I have sent a number called 5 here. Next what I have to do here, whether my number is equal to 1. So what is my num here? It is 5. So it is going to compare whether 5 is equal to 1. Yes? No. It is false. So what it has to do? It has to come to the else part. So next what I am going to do, I have to use num into fact of n minus 1, right? So what happens here? I am going to use num. So what is the value of num here? 5. So 5 into, next is fact of this will be a fact of num minus 1. So num is what? 5 minus 1. So what will happen? 5 into, this is nothing but a fact of 4. So it is a fact of 4 I am going to use. So if you remember the definition, what is going to happen here? It is nothing but a function is going to call itself. So again this function is going to call fact. So what will happen here? Again the function will jump to this part. So again here your parameter is sending a value called 4. So what happens here? Next, whether my 4 is equal to 1? No. So what I have to do? I have to jump to else part. Next, what will happen here? Again I have to use num. So it will be when for this, again this particular function is going to call. So what is num? It is nothing but your 4 into, next is fact n num minus 1. So what will be your fact n num minus 1? Fact of 4 minus 1. So it will be 4 into fact of 3. So next I have 3 here. So next part, again it is going to call the function itself. So it is going to send a 3 as a parameter. Next you have to check whether the 3 is equal to 1. So whether 3 is equal to 1? No. So again the else part has to run. So for this the else part is going to run. It is nothing but your 3 into fact of 3 minus 1. So it will be 3 into fact of 2. Next again the parameter has been sent as 2. So next what will happen? Whether my num 2 is equal to 1? No. So what will happen? I have to again call my function. So it will be 2 into fact of 2 minus 1. So it will be 2 into fact of 1. So now the parameter is sending a number called 1, right? So now it is going to check whether my num is equal to 1. So what will happen? Yes. Now what has happened? The smallest part of that function is being used where you can terminate. So what will happen? If 1 is equal to 1, what I have to return? I have to return 1. So which function is calling? Fact of 1 is calling. So it will be written as 1 here. So this will be 1 into 2. So what is 1 into 2? It is 2. So this 2 is returned back to fact of 2. So it will be nothing but 3 into 2. So it is a 6. So next what I have to do, this is being returned back to fact of 3. So what will happen? Here 4 into 6. So it will be 24. So next what I have to do, this 24 is being returned to fact of 4. Now here what I have, it is 5 into 24. It is nothing but for this function I am going to get a 120. So at last this result will be returned back to your main function and the result will be printed in the output. So this is how your recursive function works. So I can link this to my definition. So what is the definition? I am going to divide, recursive function is nothing but I am going to call the function itself. So I am going to call my function itself till where I get my smallest part where a further call of that particular function will not take place. This is how the function, recursive function works. So this is a simple example for a recursive function. Now let us go to the next example to understand more. So I'll take one more example, that is your Fibonacci series. What is Fibonacci series? It is nothing but a sequence of series where we obtain it by sum of preceding two numbers. So sum of preceding two numbers. So how to do this? For example, the series is like this: 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, etc. So how this is? 0 plus 1. So it is nothing a sequence of series where sum of preceding two numbers. So to get this result I have to add this. So 0 plus 1, it is 1. Next 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 plus 2, 5. Like this I have to get this series. To do this series I have to use a recursive function. So by seeing this series I can tell you what is my base case. So what is my base case here? It is nothing but the 0 and 1 is your base case because I require two preceding numbers to add the next number. So what I am going to do, the one case is 0 and 1 will be your 1. So whenever your number is 0, it has to return 0, and whenever your number is 1, it has to return 1. Next, after this what I have to do, this is my two base cases. It is not mandatory that only one base case is required. You can have two base cases also. So what will happen here? So I finished using my two preceding numbers. It depends upon the problem. So what will happen? So 0, whenever it is 0, I am going to return 0. Next, whenever it is 1, I am going to return as 1. So next what I have to do? I have to add the sum of two preceding numbers, right? Next part is that. So this, to get this particular number, I have to add these two. How to get it? Think that I have stored this in one particular array. So, or in a array type of data type. So what happens? I have stored here 0, 1, 1, 2 and 3, right? So to get this result, I have to minus 1 and minus 2. Yes? So I have to get the next preceding number, means I have to minus it with 1, and if I wanted to get this number, I have to minus it with 2. So it is nothing but I have to add n minus 1 and n minus 2. So to get this number, I have to use the place, just minus 1 place and the next preceding minus 2 places to get it. Now I will write this in an recursive function. So how to write this in a recursive function? So you know I have to use one function to do this. So I am going to return, I'll use fib where I am going to send a number to it. So I will take n here, so it is a number to it. Next, what I have to do here, I am not explaining it from the declaration part, just function for that I am going to write. So int fib of, I have to send that particular number where I have to calculate it. So int fib of int n. So what is my base case? So if my n is equal to 0, so if my n is equal to 0, what I have to do? I have to return 0. Fine. Next, what I have to do? If my n is equal to 1. So I said I have two base cases, right? So one is when n is equal to 0. Next, when n is equal to 1. So when n is equal to 1, what I have to do? I have to return 1. So these are my two base cases. Next, what I have to do? If my n is larger than 0 and 1. So what will happen? I have to use n minus 1 and n minus 2. And I am going to use what? Recursive function. So my function has to call itself. So next, what I have to do? Otherwise, I have to return your fib of n minus 1. So I am going to use a function where fib is called as n minus 1 plus next fib of n minus 2. Why these two? I have to add two preceding number. So the first preceding number I will get it by minusing it 1, and second preceding number I will get it from minus 2. But I have to call it itself, right? So this is how your Fibonacci function will be written. So we'll see this, how you can use your Fibonacci by tracing it. Think that I want a series of 5 numbers. So how to do this? So for example, I want a series of 5 numbers. I require 5 numbers in that particular series. So it will be starting from 0, 1, then 1, next 2, next 3, right? So this is how I have to get a series. So it will be 5 numbers which I have to get. First will be 0, 1, 1, 2 and 3. It is not similar to your factorial. In factorial, the result was given back. That complete result was given. But here what we have to do, a series of number has to be given. So that is 0, 1, 1, 2 and 3. So how to get this? So in your main function, I have to call a function for 0 ones, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what will happen? So if I give you a value as 0, it has to return 0. Next, when I give a value as 1, it has to return 1. So if I give a value as 2, it has to return 2. If I give a value as 3, it has to return 2. If I give a value as 4, it has to return 3. So this is how I have to write it in my main function. Before going to a main function, we'll see how this will work. So I have to use this series, right? So whenever I'm calling it in my main function, I'm going to use a for loop there to call. So I'll use I is equal to 0. Next, I is less than n. Next, it will be I plus plus. So next what I have to do, I have to print that series. So I'm going to use printf %d, and when I'm using this, I'm calling a function of fib. So what I'm going to do, fib of I'm going to send it and I'm going to print this. So we'll see one by one now. So what happens here? So when my I is equal to 0, so I'm going to send what? The function called fib of 0. So this function is going to call fib of 0. So here n will be having a 0 value. So when it is 0, what will happen? Your 0 is equal to 0. What I have to return? I have to return it as 0. So my first series will be obtained. Fine. So I am using it for 5 numbers. Fine. So my n will be is equal to 5. So first time I is equal to 0, I have sent it as a 0. What happens? It will return 0 here. Next, what I have to do when my I will be incremented, right? So I is 1 now. So when it is 1, 1 is less than 5? Yes. So next here fib of 1 is being called. So when it is fib of 1, what I have to do? Next, it is going to call this particular function. So whether n is equal to 1 is equal to 0? No. So this condition doesn't hold. Next, whether 1 is equal to 1? Yes, this condition holds. So what it is going to return? It is going to return 1. So once fib of 1 is there, the 1 will be returned back. Next, what is that? I am going to increment my I will become 2. Whether 5 is less than 2? Yes, right? So what I have to do? I am going to call a function fib of 2. So when I am calling a function fib of 2, here the parameters is being sent as 2. Next, it is going to compare whether 2 is equal to 0? No. So this condition doesn't hold. Next, again if condition where I am saying whether 2 is equal to 1? No. So this condition doesn't hold. Next, what I have to do? I am going to call the function itself. So what will happen here? It is nothing but your fib of 2 minus 1 plus fib of 2 minus 2 I am going to call. So what will happen here? Fib of 2 minus 1, this will be fib of 1 plus this will be fib of 0. So this function is going to call again this function. So what will happen? Fib of 1 means, so 1 will be sent. So 1 is equal to 0? No. 1 is equal to 1? Yes. So it is going to return 1. Next, what it is going to do? It is going to call fib of 0. So when it becomes fib of 0, what will happen? 0 is equal to 0? Yes. It is going to return 0. So this will be added. So it becomes 1 and this is going to be returned by this particular function. So next, what it is going to print? It is going to print as 1. Did I get 1 here? Yes. So it is going to print as 1. So we'll move to next part, that is if I'll increment my I to 3. So whether 3 is less than 5? Yes. Right? So what will happen here when 3 is less than 5? I am going to call fib of 3. So when I am going to call fib of 3, what will happen? So it is going to send 3 here. Whether 3 is equal to 0? No. So it is going to return 0. Next, whether 3 is equal to 1? No. So this also condition doesn't hold good. Next, we are going to see this. So it will be fib of 3 minus 1 plus fib of 3 minus 2. Right? So what will happen here? This will be fib of 2 plus this will be fib of 1. So again this is calling a function called fib. So next it has to send a value called 2. So whether 2 is equal to 0? No. Whether 2 is equal to 1? No. So again this function is being called. So it is going to divide this function. Again it will be fib of n minus 1, that is nothing but 2 minus 1, then fib of 2 minus 2. Next, here what will happen? It is a fib of 1, this will be fib of 0. So it is going to call the function once again. So it will be 1, whether 1 is equal to 0? No. Whether 1 is equal to 1? Yes. So what I have to return? I have to return 1. Next, this part. So it is going to call a fib of 0. So this particular function will be called. So fib of 0, what it is doing? 0 is equal to 0? Yes. What I have to return? 0. So it is going to return 0. I have to add this because this is a addition of this particular function, right? So I'll add this, what I'll get? 1. So 1 will be returned for this function. This will be 1. Next, for this function, what it is going to return? Fib of 1. So what is 1? Whenever n is equal to 1, I have to return 1. So what will happen here? 1 plus 1. So what will be the result? 2. So I have got this result for which factorial? That is nothing but the fib of 3. So I am going to send this value. Did I get my series as 2 for the 3 series? Yes. Next, I will increment my I. So what will happen? This will be 4. So whether 4 is less than or equal to 5. So what will happen here? I am going to call fib of 4. So next, how it will work? For the fib of 4, so I am going to use fib of 4. So it will be fib of 4 minus 1 plus fib of 4 minus 2. So this will be fib of 3 plus this will be fib of 2. So this again will be divided as fib of 2 and fib of 1, right? So 3 minus 1, 2 and 3 minus 2, 1. Next, this will be divided as fib of 1 and fib of 0. So this again I have to divide it. So this will be fib of 0 and fib of 1. So whenever my base case is 0 and 1, I have to send it, right? So what I am going to send? Whenever it is 0, I am going to use it as 0. Whenever it is 1, I am going to return as 1. So when is fib of 0, what I have to return? 0. When fib of 1, it is 1. Now I have to add this. So 0 plus 1, it is 1. For this function, it is 1. What is fib of 1 here? It is 1. So what will happen? 1 plus 1, 2. So the fib of 3 is what? 2. Next, come here. Fib of 1 is what? 1. Fib of 0 is 0. I have to add this. So what is fib of 2? It is 1. Next, what I have to add? This part. So fib of 3 plus fib of 2. So fib of 3 is having a value called 2 and fib of 2 is having a value of 1. So 2 plus 1, what is the value? It is 3. So this 3 is returned to fib of 4 value. So did I get the function value 3 here? So next what will happen? My I will be incremented. So I will become 5. So whether 5 is less than 5? No. So my program ends here. I wanted a 5 numbers of series. Did I get a 5 numbers of series? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 numbers of series is being displayed in the program. So this is how you can use your recursive function to simplify your program. So by calling itself, the same function will help you to solve the problem easily. So this is how the recursive function is being used. I hope you have understood the recursive function. Thank you.